Welcome to the Zone Coverage Football Show, your pre-game build-up to Pigskin Sundays. Catch the show live on the TuneIn and Speaker apps, or listen back in its podcast form via iTunes and Stitcher. Here's your host, live from Tees Towers, Mark Tees.
The show is now sponsored by DynastySportsEmpire.com, your number one resource for all your Dynasty sports needs. Whether it's MMA, baseball, basketball, NHL, DynastySportsEmpire.com has you covered. So head over to DynastySportsEmpire.com and sign up today. Oh, I've missed my cue. Oh, too busy in the chat room. Chat room is open, folks, as are the phone lines. 07444 048 266. Skype is Tees Missed It. We have a busy show today despite the lack of news. So, phone lines are open and we'll be right back after this. Enjoy. There we have it. Welcome along to the Zone Coverage Football Show, episode 46. Well, we're now Sunday, the 26th of July, 2015. Welcome, welcome. And as what's been they set the precedent a few weeks ago, in fairness, the chat room is absolutely full to the brim as usual. And if you want to join in the chat room, then head over to Spreaker.com if you've got like a Facebook account, Twitter account. Most people have these days. It's a free sign up. I keep saying this. There's no sort of kickback for me. It's just a way for you guys to listen to the show. Once you're signed up there, search your Zone Coverage Football Show. You can listen live on your phone, your what are they called now? Tablets, all that sort of stuff on your desktop. And just get in the chat room, have a chat. I do believe John's in there. I think I've seen Big Legowski, David, Terry's back after a week off. So, yeah, fair enough. It's nice and busy. The other live option you guys have is the TuneIn app. Again, just search your Zone Coverage Football Show on the TuneIn app. And I do know that a few of you sort of like been missing the odd show here, there and everywhere. And you've been getting in touch with me because you've listened to the podcast form. So I very much appreciate that. And podcast-wise, you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube as well, so that's always good. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, so feel free to do so. I keep banging on about this. Anyone that listens via iTunes or has got an iTunes account or can borrow someone's account, give the show a 5-star rating and a bit of feedback. That helps immensely. So right then, that is out of the way. Social media wise, you can contact us via the Facebook page, again facebook.com/Zone Coverage Football Show. All the links to the show can be found on the website zonecoveragefootballshow.com. Started doing a couple of like written pieces and stuff as well, so go and enjoy those. Beyond that, tweet me. Zone Coverage FS is Twitter. Right then, a couple of us just joined the chat room. Tom's in there, Scott's in there, David. Oh, it's packed. It is packed. So great to see you all in there enjoying that. I will try and keep tabs on that as much as I can, in fairness. So I'm just going to jump to Twitter. Twitter is relatively quiet at the moment. So if you want to send some tweets in, feel free to do so. That is at Zone Coverage FS. I stumbled then for a minute. I forgot what I was doing. If you want to text the show, if you're a little shy, you can text in 07444 048 266. Do remember to leave us your name and use Twitter handle or whatever, and I will give you a shout out on the show. Again, if you've got like inclusive minutes and inclusive texts, don't worry about the cost of ringing the mobile number. It's just going to come out of your minutes. If you are abroad, though, that's a whole different ball game, hence the Skype option. So if you want to Skype into the show, that's not going to cost you anything. That is a Teece Mister, T-E-E-C-E, Mister. Right then, I think that's enough rambling. At the top of the show, what have we got for you today? The challenge was sort of thrown down in the chat room earlier as the credits were sort of rolling in. There's a little bit of news. Good luck with filling the show. And yes, good luck my end. It's going to be interesting. Let's put it one way. I do have quite a bit of news. Going to put another shout out for the fan versus fan. So we'll get to that a little later. What I decided to do, was it a couple of weeks ago, I was going through like players under pressure and we reeled them off. That was kind of interesting. We've had a few interviews as well over the course of the last couple of weeks. We have David Sassal. He was on last week. He was talking about the deal with Tottenham, merchandise and any sort of rumours and that. So if you didn't catch that one, I do insist you go back and listen to that. It was a good show, and thanks again to David for coming on the show. So that is the old shows, but for today I've been doing a bit of research and I decided to go and see what unit would I consider the best and worst on each team. But you're thinking, that's easy, just go quarterbacks. Their quarterback's not so good. That's an easy one. But I totally eradicated quarterbacks out of the equation. So I looked at like secondary, defensive line, offensive line, pass catchers, tight end, wide receivers, and then running backs as a separate entity themselves. So we'll get to that in a little bit later. It took me ages, in fairness, going through everyone. So that should be of interest. And obviously, if you agree, disagree with that, then just hit me up, Zone Coverage FS 07444048266 on the text and phone lines. Before that, I actually did find quite a bit of news, in fairness. The majority of people being moronic is probably the most appropriate word I can say. So we'll get to that. NFL News. Right then, first up I have was the news. Talking of moronic behaviour, we have Titans wide receiver Justin Hunter. He was a second-round pick back in 2013. He's been charged with one count of felonious assault after an incident in Virginia Beach. The allegations against Hunter include malicious intent, stabbing, cutting, wounding. This is all according to the Virginia Beach Sheriff's Office. Authorities reportedly responded to a large fight at a local bar during July the 3rd. One victim was hospitalised due to the injuries sustained during the incident. Hunter then turned himself in to the authorities on the Monday after a warrant was issued for his arrest. So, not the smartest move in the world, is it? Well, I think I'm getting to the point now where I just need football because the people just getting in trouble. Week after week after week. It's just mind-boggling. Moving on then, NFL team split a revenue pot of $7.2 billion. Quick bit of math. $226 million each. Most of that money has obviously come from the huge TV deals and stuff, and you can see why these players are trying to dig the heels in as much as they can and get as much money. Get that salary cap up, give the players a little bit more money. Not that they're not already earning millions, but you can see their sort of side of the argument. If the NFL is getting $226 million each, yeah, I understand that teams have their outgoings with all the other staff that we don't see beyond the actual players on the field and stuff, but even so, it's a hell of a lot of money. The Arizona Cardinals, they are adding Adrian Wilson to the team's Ring of Honor. The safety will be inducted at the halftime of the Cardinals games against the 49ers on September the 27th. Wilson spent 12 seasons with the Cardinals after being drafted in the 3rd round. He's played in the Pro Bowl 5 times. He finished his NFL career with 987 tackles, 716 of which were solo, 27 interceptions, and 25 and a half sacks, 15 forced fumbles, 8 forced fumble recoveries and 4 touchdowns. All this achieved in 181 regular season games, and he started 162 of those as a starter, and he will be the 15th player inducted into the team's Ring of Honor. Wow, there's some impressive stats there. The Minnesota Vikings They decided to give running back Adrian Peterson a sort of, well, not like a new contract, sort of restructured the last 3 years of his contract. The team announced the deal will pay Peterson $44 million over 3 years. That is according to Ian Rappaport of the NFL Network. I'm not going to go into the whole Adrian Peterson saga. I think that's something that's been done to death. I don't get why No, I said I'm not going to go into it, so let's resist and move on. Up next, the Chiefs, they've waived rookie safety Justin Cox after he was arrested on domestic violence charges. This was on Monday. This was the second time in 8 months that Cox has been in trouble. He was an undrafted free agent out of Mississippi State. He's been charged with aggravated domestic violence, burglary of a residence, and trespassing. In 2014, he was suspended for the final 3 games of the college season following a November arrest on aggravated domestic assault and burglary charges. Where will anyone ever learn? Just stay at home, chill out. All you do is brag these NFL players about they can beat each other on Madden. Why not do that? Go do a workout, spend some time with your family. It's going to be a rough 17 weeks plus camp. Just chill out and relax. It's not difficult. Come on. Marcus Mariota, he finally signed his contract. I do believe that was on Tuesday. This is 81 days after the actual NFL draft. The deal is worth $24.2 million over 4 years. He gets a $15.9 million signing bonus. The hold up there was that was it offset language? Apparently the Titans sort of dig their heels in and say, look, we have offset language with every single first round pick. This is the way it is. But they've sort of like worked something out where there's still some offset language in, so the Titans can still say next year, Luke, we have offset language with everyone. We even had it with Mariota, sign a deal, wind your neck in. So yeah, the Titans and Marcus Mariota all done and dusted ahead of camp, which is fantastic for the Titans organisation as a whole. Oh God, it's getting depressing. This should be like the opening depressing 10 minutes. Green Bay Packers defensive tackle LaTroy Guion, he has been suspended for the first 3 games of the season. This is due to an arrest on felony drug and weapons charges. The charges stem from an incident back in February. This happened during a traffic stop in which authorities seized a large amount of marijuana, a firearm, and nearly $200,000 in cash. Yeah, why? Why are people carrying vast amounts? I'm lucky if I've got 20 quid in my wallet. Not that I've got 200 grand anyway to be carrying around, but why are people just rocking around with $200,000 in cash? And then a gun and marijuana. It's madness. Apparently he's still trying to get his truck and cash back. Yeah, good luck with that. Let's get on to some actual news. Hey, Pittsburgh Steelers announced a contract extension for Mike Tomlin on Thursday. He will now be a coach. I think it was a 4-year extension. Yeah, in 8 years as coach, Tomlin has produced an impressive 82-46 regular season records. Obviously, he's appeared in 2 Super Bowls, winning 1. So, great news there for the Steelers organisation. They are a good run franchise. The guys at the top there, it's Rooney's, isn't it, Steelers? I can't remember the facts. There's not a vast amount of coaches they've had throughout their tenure. So great work by the Steelers locking up Tomlinson there, Mike Tomlin even. They also locked up, who was it now? General Manager Kevin Colbert. He's going to be with the organisation now through at least the 2018 draft. Colbert enters his 5th season as the Pittsburgh's GM after serving as the team's director of football operations for 11 years prior to that. Right then, I can see a hell of a lot of activity going on in the chat room. I'm not really sure what everyone's going on about. I'm a little lost. Yeah, can we fill 90 minutes with suspensions, arrests? Yeah, I think we could do, in fairness. We still, no news on the Tom Brady verdicts, guys. No one seems to know what's happening there. It's all hush-hush. I'm sure we do a quiet period soon before the season kicks off. The regular Friday news dump that the NFL's been doing, and that's been intriguing, around about 6-7 o'clock at night, our time, all these suspensions and stuff seem to be coming down. I wonder if that's going to become an actual regular feature, just to give everyone a reminder that the NFL rules the way. I'm just going to check in on Twitter at Zone Coverage FS. If you want to tweet the show, feel free to do so. Twitter's quiet. Very, very quiet. A few people have been retweeting the links out for the live show, so I do appreciate that. If everyone can do that, that's fantastic. Your end. Right then, back to the news. Where did we get to? Oh, yeah, we had 2 pieces of good news. Let's get back to the tragic news. This one, Denver Broncos defensive end Derek Wolfe has been handed a 4-game ban for use of performance-enhancing substances. Some sad news, really. Tampa Bay Bucs C.J. Wilson, he is going to be stepping away from football to focus on his health and recovery. This coming after he lost 2 fingers in a July the 4th firework incident. Chiefs cornerback Sean Smith, he's also been suspended for 3 games by the NFL after pleading guilty last month to driving under the influence. He was cited in June after police saw him, get this, he crashed into a light pole. Sean Smith, well done you, sir. I just have to refrain from cursing. The Saints, this list gets worse, doesn't it? The Saints have released a troubled pass rusher, Junior Galette. A bold decision by the Saints, really, not obviously in respect to Galette's character. We all know the crazy incidents that he's been involved in over the course of his career. They seem to spiral more and more out of control, and there's all sorts of ongoings going on Twitter. I can't really talk about them because I don't know how factually true they are and stuff like that, but it's just a bizarre situation. The impact for the Saints, though, going forward, it's going to cost them a $12.6 million cap hit in 2016, and as we all know, there was a lot of ridicule towards the Cowboys and how they deal with the cap. The Saints, they're digging themselves a bit of a hole there with this, but it's the way of the NFL now. Any sort of troubled player that sort of seems to be bringing the team into disrepute, he seems to get dealt with. He's pushed away, so. Yeah, there's a lot. If you just go on, search on Twitter, search the internet for Junior Galette, there's a lot of sort of nonsense and just absolute craziness. I got sent some stuff via Robert, so I really do appreciate that, Robert. He did send me some stuff, so you're probably best hitting Robert up for that. He'll direct you to that. I don't want to put anything out there just in case. You never know. Moving on then, we did have a bit of news. The punters got paid. Ryan Allen of the New England Patriots, he has signed a 3-year contract extension here. He is averaging an impressive 46.1 yards on his punt average. So that is the news. That's a lie because it's not the news. I've got some more. I've just seen this at the bottom of my page. We all know training camp is upon us. I hear you. Everyone all in unison, just sort of like, yes, finally. A lot of teams reporting. I do believe the Steelers and the Vikings, they're already back in camp. They kicked in yesterday, actually. We have the Cardinals. The rookies start on the 28th of July, obviously. The veterans then report on the 31st. We've got the Falcons. Their rookies and veterans are in at the same time, and that's the 30th of July. Same for the Carolina Panthers. Across the board, they report the 30th. The Bears report on the 29th, as do the Dallas Cowboys. The Lions, their rookies report on the 28th, and then the veterans the 2nd of August. Packers is the 29th for everyone. As I said, the Vikings are already done and dusted. The Saints are in on the 29th. Their rookies have been in since the 22nd. We have the Giants. It's across the board on the 30th of July for everyone. Then we have the Eagles. Everyone reports on the 1st of August. The St. Louis Rams, they report that. Well, the St. Louis Rams and the 49ers rookies, they're in on the 27th, which is tomorrow. And then the veterans, they're in on the 31st. Seahawks, it's the 30th across the board. 27th for the Tampa Bay Bucs. Rookies, 31st then for the veterans. We have the Redskins. Rookies and vets both report on the 29th. The Ravens rookies, they've been in since the 22nd. The veterans pop in on the 29th. We have the Bills across the board on the 30th. The Bengals rookies are the 27th, veterans 30th. The Cleveland Brown rookies, they've been in since the 22nd. The veterans then report on the 29th. The Broncos rookies are the 27th, veterans 30th. We have the Houston Texans rookies, they report today. And the veterans then on the 31st. We have the Indianapolis Colts. Everyone's in on August the 1st. The Jaguars, their rookies are in 27th, the veterans are 30th. We have the Chiefs, their rookies report on the 28th, the veterans on the 31st. Up next then, we have the Dolphins, everyone's in on the 29th. The Patriots rookies are already in, they were in on the 23rd, the veterans report the 29th. New York Jets, everyone reports on the 29th. Raiders, rookies, they report today, and then the veterans are the 30th, and then I mentioned the Steelers, they're already in. Chargers is 29th for everyone, and finishing off the Tennessee Titans, that's the 30th for everyone. Oh, wow, that is that done and dusted. Right, I'm just going to check back in on the chat room. Scott says, boo, too many Bronco suspensions. John Cartwright then says, boo to the Chiefs suspensions. And Robert follows that up with boo to Junior Glett as well. Yeah, it's the news is just sad. Can I repeat that list? Which part do you want, Terry? Ask me which part you want. I can't do the entire list. It'll drive me insane. I can forward an image though to you if you want. If you're after your 49ers, if I can find them on my list, the 49ers were the 27th for the rookies, 31st for the veterans, if that helps. If anyone needs an individual shout out on when their team reports, try me in the chat room. If not, tweet at me at Zone Coverage FS. That gives me the perfect segue now to Twitter. The Broncos, someone's put the Broncos. When did they want the Broncos? Oh, man, I can't find it. Where are the Broncos? I don't believe I got the Broncos on my... Oh, I do, yes. 27th for the rookies, 30th for the veterans. Just checking in then on Twitter. Cameron, yeah, at C4MR. Cameron was on the show last week talking Seahawks. He says, when he's not listening to the Trad Jazz in Glasgow, you can find me listening to the Zone Coverage Football Show. Appreciate that, buddy. Will Davies as well. He's off to Spain. He messaged me earlier, so his fingers crossed with the overseas Wi-Fi. It's probably going to cost you £10 for 3 minutes. And judging by the nonsense I spew out, that's a rough deal your end, sir. Right then, let's move on. Let's move on rapidly, I hear you say. Right then, what do we have? Let's get to this then. The best and worst of AFC North. I'm going to start out with, again, if you missed it at the top of the show, I'm just discounting quarterbacks as a whole, in fairness, because it'd just be too easy, wouldn't it? We get to the Buffalo Bills, it'd be like worst of. We get to the Jets, worst of, quarterback. Or we get to the Packers, best of, as Aaron Rodgers. It'd just be too easy and lazy on my part. So I decided to just totally get them out of the equation. So I've done a best of and a worst of. There's a few names as well that I've sort of penciled in to maybe keep an eye on if there's a couple of injuries. Maybe these people will jump to the forefront of our focus going forward. So again, if you agree, disagree, or you want some feedback, then just feel free to send it my way at Zone Coverage FS, Twitter. The number again, 07444048266, or Skype me at TeaseMister. Right, then we're going to start off with, said the AFC North, going to go with the Green Bay Packers. The best of, I'm sure you'll all agree with this in fairness, the pass catchers. It's a group that includes Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams, 3,252 yards between those three alone. Add to this, I put down, keep an eye on Jeff Janis should Nelson or Cobb miss any time. And let's not forget the gun-firing Andrew Corliss and Richard Rodgers. They also accounted for 548 yards and 5 touchdowns going forward. So I think it's fair to agree that the best unit within the Green Bay Packers team is the pass catchers, obviously outside of Aaron Rodgers. And then I moved to the worst of. Kind of tricky, really, because the Packers do a decent job, don't they? And sort of like they build their roster for when they're not as active within the free agency market. The roster turnover is very limited. So the worst of Packers, I went for the D-line. I mentioned the other week that BJ Raji, he was one of my players under pressure in 2015. That's Latroy Goyon as well. Latroy Goyon, he's in a bit of bother. He filled in well for Raji. But it's an area that needs improving. Also, the line, Dayton Jones, he was a first-round pick in 2013. He needs to step up his game as he's now become more of a rotational player. Also, last year's third-round pick, Kiri Thornton, he might not even make the roster, so that's quite sad. The third round pick from last year, Kiri Thornton, might not even make the roster, so keep an eye on that one. Let's move on then. That is the best and worst of that. Agree, disagree? Twitter, Zone Coverage FS. Feel free. Moving on, the Chicago Bears. The best of. Again, like the Packers, the pass catches on the Bears are a formidable group. We've got Alshon Jeffrey. He's going to now become the focal point for opposition defences. This in turn, that's going to open things up for Kevin White. Tight end Martellus Bennett. He's caught 155 balls, 83 of those resulting in first downs. We also Martellus Bennett. He's one of the better tight ends now. If you are a fantasy freak, he's going to be drafted very, very high, one would imagine. And the Bears also reunited the much... how do I dress this up nicely? Let's just stick to what I wrote down. The Bears reunite Jay Cutler with wideout Eddie Royal. Cutler to Royal was a formidable force for the Broncos back in 2008. That yielded 980 yards, 5 touchdowns. That was in Eddie Royal's rookie season. It'll be interesting to see if they can rekindle some of that chemistry. So Eddie Royal, if you're in deep fantasy leagues out the slot, could be a nice little go-to there. The worst of here, Chicago Bears-wise, I did consider the D and O-line, but I settled with the Bears secondary as the worst group. Don't get me wrong, Kyle Fuller, he impressed during his rookie season, but opposite Fuller, Tim Jennings had a season to forget. I did Brock Vereen at safety, and having given up more passing first downs than any other team, they acquired 32-year-old Antro Roll. He'd come over in free agency from the Giants. That said, the combined age at safety will be 62, as Ryan Mundy is 30. Nothing against being up there in years. But a 32-year-old and a 30-year-old compared safeties, you're asking for a lot of trouble there in my eyes. That is the perfect segue. We go from one secondary being the worst of to what I consider to be one of the best up-and-coming secondaries throughout the entire NFL in my eyes. This one's for you, John McDonald. You're going to love this one. The Minnesota Vikings, probably one of the most underrated units in the NFL. I'll start off with one of my favourites, safety Harrison Smith. This guy he's just a playmaker. Great instincts, he's fast, excellent in coverage, he's a nasty SOB as well. Then we have cornerback Javier Rhodes, who's blossomed in year 2. They then drafted Trey Waynes. He looks like he's expected to be penciled in as a starter come week 1. Captain Monolin, he's going to move inside. And I completely ignored the Vikings secondary. I didn't realise he did such a good job, but last year against the pass, they were ranked 7th overall for the Vikings there, and that, I'll be honest, that caught me by surprise. Obviously, you know the names and stuff. I suppose it's just a bit of ignorance, since they aren't shown on the TV as much as you'd sort of like. We don't get a big enough sample size of all the teams in my eyes. It seems it's Patriots, Broncos, Colts, Seahawks. They seem to sort of like dominate the way. So we'll probably see a bit more of the Vikings in fairness this year, because everyone's penciled them as a playoff team already. So Vikings secondary is very, very good. I enjoy doing a bit of research on them. So can they improve those 7th overall against the pass? I'd be interested to see what you guys think on that. The worst then, for me, Vikings, worst part of their team, I have to go with the pass catching group. A lot of hype surrounding third-year player Charles Johnson, but outside of him, I'm just not convinced. Mike Wallace, he's been bought in to take the top off the D. Can he recapture some of that Pittsburgh form that's seen him get paid plenty of dollars along the way? We all know about Cordell Patterson's woes. Add to this group that ranked 28th passing offense. That is bad. Kyle Rudolph. Yeah, I just can't speak today. Kyle Rudolph's return to the lineup following injury should have a positive impact on the group. Under the radar, I hope anyone keep him peeled for Jarius Wright. I've seen a lot of sort of talk from the OTAs regarding Jarius Wright, so he might be one to keep an eye on going forward. So that's your Vikings. Before we move on to the Lions, I'm just going to check in on the chat room. Seems to have calmed down a little bit after the flurry of excitement. It was the opening credits and stuff. Brandon Bostic's catching ability. That's an excellent call, Scott. We all remember that from the championship game. But agree. John says he agrees that the Bears secondary still looks very weak. So I do appreciate the feedback there. If you are listening back via the iTunes, Stitcher, and even YouTube, if you just leave some comments on there and hit me up on Twitter, Zone Coverage FS, I will of course get in touch with you. Answer any sort of questions. If you think I'm mad, losing my mind, then I encourage the opinion. This is just, I've looked at the teams and jotted down my thoughts. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. It's just how I feel. If you feel different, then and please do engage. I'll talk pigskin all day. Right then, let's get back to this list. We're going to look at next up is the Detroit Lions. The best of for me. I know what you're going to say, Detroit Lions. You lot are thinking pass catchers, wide receivers. Megatron, Golden Tate, Eric Ebron's expected to take the sort of next step. I ignored all that, and this is where you're going to call me crazy. And I appreciate that, and you could say the pass catchers are the best unit within the team. And I wouldn't really argue against that. But for me, I went for the linebacking group. I really, really like this linebacking group. Again, as I said, I'm trying to think outside the box with certain teams on this. Just give me a bit of in-depth sort of insight into what's going on and stuff. I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. So I went the linebacking group. I've put in my notes that the pass catches was just too easy for me. DeAndre Levy, for me, is one of the best linebackers in the game. Also add to this, we've got Stephen Tulloch returning. He had an ACL last year. But that injury, that benefited both Tahir Whitehead and Josh Barnes, who add quality depth to this unit. Also, there's a lot of hype surrounding Kyle Van Noy. He displayed some excellent traits both in coverage and rushing last year. So I'm going with the linebackers. I'd be absolutely intrigued to hear what you think. There's already a crazy comment in there from Terry. The pass catchers, they are the 1A. I'm not going to argue with that there, in fairness. But I just thought for me that I really like the linebacking group, and I do believe DeAndre Levy is one of the most underrated linebackers in the league. We'll move on then to the worst unit. I said I was staying away from the easy ones, but then I went and picked the D-line. What sort of swayed my decision here? The loss of Dominican Sue, Nick Farley, CJ Mosley are going to have an impact on this group's ability to dominate the line. I guess the question sort of remains, Haloti Ngata's come over from the Ravens. What's he got left in the tank? What's the desire in his heart moving teams? Is he still going to be the phenomenal player that we all know and loved up in Baltimore? Next to him, we have Tyron Walker. He's expected to start. Be interesting to see if the former Saint, he's played just 23 games, only started one. To be fair, there is some hope along this line for the Lions. We have defensive end Ziggy Ansah. He's a great player. So expecting, though, to see the double teams that Sue wants commence. So I suppose it'd be interesting to see how Ziggy Ansah handles the double teaming going forward. So that is your best and worst of Detroit Lions, and that is the end of me AFC North. So any agreements, disagreements, again, hit me up at Zone Coverage FS. So I check my phone once again. It's very, very quiet. Oh, very quiet today. Right then, let's move on to the NFC South. Panthers. Start for the Panthers. I decided to go the best of. For me, linebacking group. Yeah, I'll admit it. I am a huge fanboy of Luke Kuechly. His detractors will say that the system's built for him to succeed. It probably is, but he's still one hell of a player. I counter that argument with, have you ever seen a guy move from sideline to sideline as quick as Luke Kuechly does for a linebacker? No, I don't think you have. Next to him, Thomas Davis. For me, Thomas Davis is, if you've got children looking for a role model, this guy, pin your hopes on him. What a testament to not just a player within the NFL, but as a human being in general. A fantastic guy. And consider how good he is and how humble he is. He's come back. He's torn his ACL 3 times, and he's still back performing to a high level. He had a new contract this off-season and everything, so fantastic. David Mayo and AJ Klein, they provide quality depth. And oh yeah, guess what? They went and drafted Shaq Thomas, who's an outstanding athlete and can play Mike, Will and Sam linebackers. So the Panthers are sorted at linebacker for the foreseeable future. And like I say, you've got a couple of really good role models in that team as well, doing great work on and off the field, which is a far cry from the news I read out earlier when everyone's doing everything that they shouldn't be. For me then, let's move on to the worst of. There has to be the secondary here, I'm afraid. Safeties Roman Harmon and Trey Boston, they've had more than their fair share of struggles in 2014's. Charles Tillman's age, that's catching up with him. Malvin White lost his starting job, not once, but twice last year. So Malvin White is going to struggle again, you would assume, this year. Josh Norman gives them some hope at corner, but I expect 2015 to be a rough time for the secondary of the Panthers, especially when you consider that you've got the Falcons and the Saints in that division, and they're just going to be gun-ho with Matt Ryan and Drew Brees. Talking of the Falcons, we shall move on to the Falcons. Best of here. Easy one. Pass catches. At the forefront of this team, we've got Julio Jones, Roddy White. They combined for 2,514 yards and 13 touchdowns during last year. Harry Douglas, he performed admirably last year, but has since moved on. That leaves, I consider this an intriguing battle for the slot receiver. Leonard Hankerson, he has the edge heading into camp as he played in Shanahan's system back when they were together in Washington. And 4th round selection, Justin Hardy, he's turned heads to OTAs. According to reports, been a lot of hype saying he's showed excellent hands and his route running has been excellent. So again, another one if you were to your sleeper fantasy leagues and all that sort of stuff, it's beyond my pay grade, in fairness. But Justin Harding might be one to stash on your bench and going forward. However, whatever floats your boat fantasy wise. We then moved on to the worst of, for me, the worst group within the Falcons organisation. A group that was decimated by injury in 2014. Centres Joe Hawley, it's the O-line, by the way. Centres Joe Hawley and Peter Collins, they're coming off surgery. Last year's first-round pick, Jake Matthews, he was also played by injury. Resulted in a mediocre campaign. I believe he had surgery as well. Inexperience at tackles. Who do we have? Yeah, I've just mentioned Jake Matthews, Ryan Schrader. That's also concerning. Saving grace may be experience at guard with John Asamoah and Chris Chester. They have 167 starts between them. So I suppose the sort of question is, can these players bounce back from injuries? Can Jake Matthews sort of come on in second year? Will the experience of John Asamoah and Chris Chester help solidify a line that was absolutely awful? Just going to jump into the chat room. David says he might go watch a game at the Falcons this December. David, you're in luck. I can give you some tips. I was in Atlanta in June. Do go to Atlanta. It's one of the greatest places I've ever been. The food is amazing. And if you stay, I can't remember where the place was. If you just stay in the downtown park, the stadium is up the road, and it's fantastic. They've got like the Olympic Park there. There's like a water fountain you can just chill in. The food's great. The people make the place. Highly recommend going to a Falcons game. Oh, he's staying in Tennessee. Right, and Tennessee, David, even better. Tennessee's even better. What I've just said about Atlanta, times that by 10. 2 fantastic places. Tennessee, where are you staying in Tennessee? We'll continue that conversation later. Right then, the Saints. Let's move on to the Saints. Could make a strong case for the secondary as being the best of unit, but with where did we go now? The secondary, Jarius Byrd, Kenny Vaccaro, Keenan Lewis has flashed. That was it. But I'm going to go with the O-line. So if the Saints secondary had not had such a down year, I'd probably been a bit higher on them because, like I said, we've got Jarius Byrd, Kenny Vaccaro, Keenan Lewis. They are good players, in fairness, but last year was just horrific for that secondary. So I can't say that is the best unit now. I'm going to go with the O-line. Both stability for me. Both stability. We've got left tackle Tyron Armstead is an up-and-coming household name. Solid last year despite a few niggles. Opposite him, we have right tackle Zach Streif, who just gets better and better in age. Then we've got all-pro right guard Jerry Evans. And then they've added Max Unger. So that is it. And then expect rookie Anders Pete to play at left guard before replacing Strife at right tackle in the future. They've got a good, solid line, have the Saints. And there's a lot of talk about them getting away from the passing game and sort of going into the running game a hell of a lot more. Echoed by John in the chat room. He says they're going to lighten Breezy's workload. So the Saints' best of being the line makes perfect sense. The worst of, though, for the Saints, I'm going to go with the pass catchers. The loss of tight end Jimmy Graham, that hurts the Saints in my eyes. It does hurt them. Jimmy Graham attracted a lot of attention. Many will be quick out. The change in philosophy, what I was talking about, just does sound good on paper, but then I'm going to lean on the likes of Marcus Goldstern, and the going gets tough. Brandon Cooks flashed during his rookie year but missed 6 games. Nick Toon caught just 21 passes in 16 games over the last 2 seasons. Jalen Saunders, Joe Morgan. They never know. They might find a diamond in the rough here. They really might find a diamond in the rough. But I think my problem with the pass catchers is there's a lack of experience. And can Marcus Colston be the leader of the group if the going does get tough? That's my problem with them. So prove me wrong, Saints. I do hope that they do prove me wrong. Yeah, and all this, we've got the added pressure for the tight end Josh Hill as well, trying to replace Jimmy Graham. Again, showed flashes. We'll see what he can do. So for the Saints, for me, they've got a lot to prove on pass catches wise. Perfect segue again. I'm getting good at this. We go from the worst sort of group being the pass catchers and to the best of when we talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Both Vincent Jackson and Mike Evans topped 1,000 yards receiving. Did you know that was the first time in franchise history that the Bucs had 2 wide receivers go over 1,000 yards in a season? Expectations, as you imagine, are going to be very high going into 2015. The big question, I guess, is can second-year tight end Austin Seferian Jenkins contribute more when you factor in rookie quarterback Winston? The attention that others will get. Maybe ASJ will be Winston's safety blanket. Beyond the trio, mentioned depth is interesting as the Bucs have added Kenny Bell and Kaelon Clay and a bid to light a fire under Robert Heaven. Heaven's got blazing speed. Well, Heaven, your blazing speed means nothing if you've got hands of stone. So for me, the Bucs, their best group is the pass catchers, and their worst group, no real shock really. It's that O-line. It's everyone remember that sort of bizarre interception last year where, what's his name now? He's now moved on. The quarterback, he's about 500 years old. Oh, that's going to haunt me. Whatever, the Bucs quarterback, it's sort of the most bizarre interception ever. You'll know what I'm talking about. I just can't think of his name. He's now moved on. He's about 110. Someone help me. Someone help me in the chat room. Someone. Anyway, let's get back to the O-line. Both Evan Smith and Logan Mankins, they struggled. There's been a slew of it's been awful. It's just madness, isn't it? The line's just been, it's been awful. The group surrendered. They actually contributed to 52 sacks. That's it. Josh McCown, that bizarre interception I was on about last year. The whole group surrendered 52 sacks last year. Will rookies Donovan Smith and Ali Marpet both start? You're going to be starting 2 rookies in your offensive line. That's a very, very, very brave your end. So, again, said Logan Mankins and Evan Smith, they were the best of a bad bunch, I could guess, and that is a bold statement. Appreciate that, Josh McCown, everyone. Yeah, I did find it in my notes later down the page. Oh, man. I need to get out more. I've been cooped up in this spare room for too long. Anyway, let's move on. Let's get to, what have we got left? We are now on, still a fair bit go. NFC West, we will start off with the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to go with the best of being the secondary. I think they've got excellent depth at safety here. Tyron Smith, Honey Badger, he passes the eyeball test with flying colours. He's been plagued with injuries throughout his first 2 seasons, but still one hell of a player. A healthy year 3, I can see him being propelled into the upper echelon of safeties for me. an excellent player. Tony Jefferson also heads into year 3 as an underrated member of this unit. He performed extremely well in the Honey Badgers' absence. The Cardinals, however, they did struggle to cover tight ends, but hopefully that's something that Jefferson can do. He's been working on that during OTAs. He's going to be struggling to get more snaps, in fairness, so that is a wise move on Jefferson's part. He's currently behind Rashard Johnson within the depth chart. Another safety to watch is Deon Buchanan. The cards are just loaded at safety. Then we go to corner. Yes, Cromartie's gone, but you've got Patrick Peterson. Hopefully he's going to be rebounding to some form of glory, really, because Peterson, he was woeful last year. I do believe, what was it now? Bruce Arians basically told him to wind his neck in because he was doing a lot of trash talking, saying how he was the best, and he got absolutely abused. So we'll see if Peterson bounces back in 2015. Opposite him, then we have Gerard Powers. He looks to get the nod over Justin Bethel. So for me, I do like the Cards secondary, especially the secondary safety slot, I should say. Very, very, very solid. That video I was talking about, someone's gone and found it with a Josh McCown crazy interception. Awesome. The worst of then, I did consider the offensive line, but I settled with the linebackers. Darrell Washington. Everyone remember Darrell Washington's been suspended now for over a year. Still no news on that. We won't go into the craziness that he got into there that led to a 1-year suspension, but there's sort of no news on that. The NFL have buried it. It's crazy. I'd be interested to see if that gets actually resolved before the 2015 season gets underway. Brought in Sean Weatherspoon. He's only played 7 games over the last 2 years. Kevin Minter, he's very, very good against the run, but third down player, I'm just not seeing that. Alex, I can't pronounce his name. Alex Okafor. That sound about right. Alex Okafor, he showed promise last year, but can he back it up? They've added Lamar Woodley via free agency, drafted Shaq Riddick. Don't get me wrong, I feel the unit last year, I feel they overachieved, to their credit and fairness. The linebacker unit played very well with all the injuries and everything that went on. Just not feeling it going into 2015. I'm not sure they can sustain that level. That is your Cardinals then. Just going to check in on the chat room and Twitter again, Zone Coverage FS, if you want to tweet the show. It's a lot of chat going on in there about certain games that people may or may not be going. As I said, John did post the link to that video, so hopefully you guys are enjoying that, having a good laugh. We'll move on then to the Rams. The best of D-line. 93 sacks in the last 2 years. Robert Quinn, his sack total may have gone down, but it's a scary thing that he could probably made him a better player. I think he's seen hell of a lot of more double teams. So teams are focusing on him. But Robert Quinn, I think was it last year that I tipped him to be the MVP. Some crazy stupid statement that I come out of. Huge Robert Quinn fan. Next in we have Michael Brockers. Outstanding as always. Another great player. Who else is there? Yeah, defensive end we have Chris Long, missed time with an ankle injury. Let's expect a big return from the vet this year I should say. Talk of a big return, rookie Aaron Donald, he set the bar high in 2014. I can't even begin to imagine how good Aaron Donald's going to be going forward. Let's not forget the Rams have added Nick Farley on a 1-year prove-it-yourself deal, so they've got a bit of added depth there, so that's going to be interesting. We'll move on then. It's like the opposite side. The O-line, for me, that's the worst of unit. Greg Robertson, he struggled at guard, but he's been kicked out now to left tackle. The vet on the line is Roger Salford. He's likely going to line up next to Robertson. However, I'd probably move him to right guard because the Rams, it looks like they're going to be starting 2 rookies on the right side, and that scares me. Jamal Brown, he's probably going to start at guard. Fellow rookie Rob Havenstein is that. He's going to play right tackle. So 2 rookies on the right-hand side of your lane. Again, I said it earlier on, it's sometimes it pans out. You look at the Cowboys and how young their line is and how talented, and you do get a nice surprise. But for me, I don't know. It just scares me. It really does. As for the centre, good luck with that. They got Tim Barnes, Demetrius Rooney, Al Jones. They're all in the mix for a starting gig. So the centre is a mess there. Right then. The 49ers, let's get on. Let's roll into the 49ers. I know Terry's ears have pricked up here, so we'll see what Terry's got to say about it. I've gone with the best unit on your team, Terry. Retirees. No, I'm only joking. I went with the pass catchers, and I know you're going to go, what? Yeah, the pass catchers. We've got 2 veterans in the final year of their deals. Vernon Davis, I said he was a player under pressure to watch. Anquan Bolden. Yes, I am falling for the narrative of players raise their game when it's contract years. Plus, I also believe Colin Kaepernick, he's going to get better. Torrey Smith was added via free agency. That's going to open up the space underneath for Davis and Bolden. Interesting depth that could break out in 2015. Keep an eye out for the wide receiver, third wide receiver slot. That's going to be between Quinton Patton, we saw flashes of him last year, Bruce Allington, and if you really want to go deep, a player that's been earning rave reviews at OTAs as Jerome Simpson. He's a 7-year player. So Quinton Patton, Bruce Allington, Jerome Simpson. I suppose I'm more intrigued how them 3 are going to sort of burst on the scene in 2015 if you add in the solid veteran presence. I like the 49ers. I thought a 40 line. I like it. And then the worst off, I think John Terry is trying to preempt me here. He's going on the line. I went for the worst part. I'm sure Terry's now going to disagree. For the secondary. For the sort of similar reasons to why I believe that the 49ers receivers are going to play well, because they're in there last year. Losing both your starting corners, for me, that's got to hurt. You can pencil Tremaine Brock in, but the battle opposite him at corner, that's going to be interesting. Got Sharice Wright as a front runner going into the season, and then you've got second-year players, Kenneth Acker and Dante Johnson. They look set to pounce if Wright struggles. Fairness, star safety, Anton Bethea, outstanding. He's of no concern. Do really like him. Again, one of my favourite players. I think he was a fantastic addition last year. I think the 49ers voted him, was he their fans of the year, player of the year, whatever it was. So high praise there. Effing cross. Fellow safety Eric Reed, if he can stay concussion free. On paper, they're a decent bunch. They are a decent bunch, but I just feel losing both your starting corners. Add to the equation, you then got a new system under Eric Mangini. And in fairness, this unit was 5th against the pass last year in 2014. I just feel that too many factors have gone into that. I do. Too many factors, and sometimes that can just create a lot of confusion. I'm hoping that proves me wrong, because they were so good last year. As I said, Bethea is one of my favourite players. We'll see how that pans out for him. Again, we go on then to the Seattle Seahawks. Legion of Boom. You're not really getting any better than a unit there, are you? We all know that Earl Thomas, if your team's got Earl Thomas in, you're basically going to get my approval. There's a lot of love for safeties, my end. Cam Chancellor as well. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. Don't get me wrong, we all know about Richard Sherman, thanks mostly to that megaphone that's been glued to his mouth for the past 2 years. But like I say, it looks like he's passed that on to Russell Wilson of late. Rant aside, though, Sherman backs up his talk and remains one of the top corners in today's games. I know those people that don't like Sherman too much will say he's got Earl Thomas over the top. I've been on that bandwagon myself more than once, but when I think push comes to shove, we all will tend to agree that Sherman is a great corner. Opposite, the question may be Kerry Williams, Will Blockman. Not overly convinced, but like you say, you've got Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor mopping up there. Just going to go to the chat room then. Get the approval from Terry, so that's always good. I think you're right. I appreciate that, Terry. Right then, let's get up to the worst of. Again, I think the Seahawks is one of the easy teams to do, to be fairness. I went for the O-line. Max Unger's gone. I expressed my concern here with the players under pressure. I think me and Cameron spoke about Lamole Jean-Pierre on the last show. Cameron did send me a nice sort of list on the Facebook page, so we had a good conversation about that, so I appreciate your feedback there, Cameron. That was a nice chat. Also lost guard James Carpenter. He's gone and joined my Jets. Alvin Bailey looks like he's going to set to take over there. Right tackle Justin Britt fared well in his rookie season, so he just needs to work on his pass protection in year 2. I guess the issue that remains with this O-line really is depth and experience. 3 rookies. We have Mark Glowinski, Terry Poole, and Christian Solaki. Sokolai, I do believe that is. The thing with this, when I've been writing stuff down on my pad for a while, I sort of tend to scribble. I must make a note of that because it's not good going forward. Right then, what have we got? Where are we now? That's the Seahawks done. Oh, let's get to the NFC East. We're going to go with the Cowboys. O-line, where do you start? Zach Martin, rookie made the Pro Bowl. Tyron Smith, probably one of the best young tackles in the NFL. Travis Frederick at centre, the brains of the operation. We've got Doug Free. And we also have left guard Ronald Leary, who is likely going to be replaced by Leo Collins, who the Cowboys sort of randomly just went, you know what, screw this, we'll take him. As the Cowboys tend to do with a lot of their players. Let's hope that one doesn't blow up in their face. That was an easy one. The worst start for me was another easy one. Running backs. The worst unit for the Cowboys is the running backs. I really don't care how good the line is. You still need talent at the running back position. It's like saying, the O-line's that good, Mark, you go and run the ball. I can't. I haven't got the talent. I don't believe Darren McFadden and co have, in fairness. How do you replace 1,845 yards and 13 touchdowns? Darren McFadden, like I said, he wouldn't have been my first choice. McFadden, he's played in all 16 games once in 7 years. And talking of once, that's the amount of times he's rushed over 1,000 yards. That was back in 2010. The last 3 years, he's averaged 3.3 yards, 3.3 yards, 3.4 yards. Joseph Randle, a lot of hype about that. Calm down. Calm down with your Joseph Randle hype. For me, he came in garbage time when Murray had absolutely pounded the opposition defence for a while. By the way, stop stealing aftershave as well, Randle. That aside, Lance Dunbar, he's not an every down back. Expect to see him in on third downs. And maybe someone who had a great OTAs earlier in the year is Ryan Williams. So maybe if a diamond in the rough, Ryan Williams emerges, but he's been struggling with blocking, so we'll see how that pans out then for the Cowboys. We'll move on to the Giants. Yes, again, pass catches. Odell Beckham Jr., 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns in, 12 games? Nothing left for me to say here, in fairness. Victor Cruz, he's going to be returning from injury. I'll be honest, I'd forgotten how good Victor Cruz was until I went back through his stats. I think he had 70-plus receptions in each season, obviously minus last year, averaging 15 yards a reception. I think he's got 160-yard first downs, 64 first downs. It's just crazy. I've forgotten. You just get ignorant, don't you? All the hype on Beckham. Cruz is an outstanding player. And we have Titan Larry Donnell. He was leaned on heavily during the beginning of the last season when Beckham was down. He's a genuine threat in the red zone. A few issues. I know he did fumble the ball, so he needs to work on ball security a bit more heading into year 3. So we'll see what he does there. I think he had 623 yards last year. Another player that's sort of like been a lot of sort of, is he going to play well? Is it his year? Is it not? Is Ruben Randle. So he had 938 yards last year, so he's going into a contract year, and you know me in contract years, I'll see what happens there. So Terry makes a good point in the chat room as well. How is Odell Beckham going to cope with all the hype? Right then, so the main issue as well with Ruben Randle is a lot of issues regarding his discipline and consistency. The coaches don't like or how he is and stuff from what I've been hearing. So the next after him is like Dwayne Hearns and Preston Parker. They provide depth for the Giants, and they're going to battle it out for the 4th receiver slot. So we'll see what happens there. The worst then, linebackers. Main concern here is health in the form of John Beeson and Devin Kinnard. Can they stay healthy? JT Thomas, he's come over from the Jags. Group needs to step up, especially against the run. The depth at the position is an issue. It really is. Quality depth. You've got Mark Hersling and Jonathan Casillas. Those names hardly set their pulse racing, but at least they're not suspended for 4 games like Victor Butler. So that the linebacking group there is poor. Well, let's move on to the Eagles. Opposite of the Cowboys, really. Their best off is the running backs. Got league MVP DeMarco Murray, Ryan Matthews, big name acquisitions. We all saw what Murray did last year. I guess the question is, can he repeat that behind what we all consider to be an inferior lines? Ryan Matthews, he's sort of like the bane of existence for fantasy players. It was that year where everyone drafted him and he was injured forever and ever. Great when healthy, but having completed just one full season in 5 years, it's not good. Not a good sign. I do believe he's averaged something like 4.4 yards per carry. I expect a big year from Sproles, even more than last year. He was dynamic in the passing game, and I think the focus is going to be on Murray and Matthews. So Sproles could have a big year. I've been reading, I forget the name of the book. It's talking about a lot about Chip Kelly. Everyone sort of thinks he's like a pass-minded, but if you read more and more into Chip Kelly, it's run the rock, pound the ball, and it's going to be interesting. I can see Sproles getting a lot of work this year. The worst for me, secondary. I know Barrow Maxwell, he's gone over to Seattle, but can he really turn around a passing D that was ranked 31st? Safety Malcolm Jenkins, he's the only starter, returning from last year's unit. Rookie Eric Rowe, he's set to be penciled in across from Maxwell. Walter Furman, according to reports, he's going to move to safety. Furman has missed 10 or more games in 3 of the last 4 seasons. Their secondary is not good. Maxwell aside, poor talent, poor depth, not great when you see Des Bryant and Odell Beckham 4 times a season. So that secondary of the Eagles is going to be hammered once again. I'm on to the last team. That come round quick. Washington Redskins, best of. I think this one might raise a few eyebrows. Pass catchers. Who have we got here? Pass catcher wise, we have Pierre Garçon, Deshaun Jackson. They combined for 1,921 yards, 9 touchdowns. All that when you factor in the carousel at the quarterback position. Tight end Jordan Reed, he's one of those sort of like annoying players because he's clearly flashed and looked good at times, been productive. He's effectively moved the chains. Over half of his 93 receptions, 53 actually, have been for first down. So he's a guy that moves the chains. I suppose the issue is his health. He's missed 12 games during the course of his first 2 seasons with the team. Fellow tight end Niles Paul, he's filled in admirably in Reed's absence. The third wide receiver slot remains up in the air going into camp. Got Andre Roberts, he looks set to start, but rookie Jamison Crowden hot on his heels. And if you're going really deep, if there's a sort of an injury with either of those guys, to Pierre Garçon, keep an eye out for Ryan Grant. There's a lot of sort of hype surrounding Ryan Grant going into the season. So God forbid there's an injury to one of the star wide receivers. Ryan Grant should be a name to keep an eye on going forward. We will then round this off with the worst of, and that has to be the secondary for the Redskins. Both starters at safety are gone from last year. Ryan Clark retired and Brandon Merriweather's contract wasn't even renewed. Cornerback D'Angelo Hall, age 31, is trying to bounce back from his second torn Achilles. Deshaun Golston looks to bounce back after 2 miserable years in Tampa. That's frightening. Deshaun Golston, he was absolutely outstanding. I think he was 49ers once. He went to Tampa. Oh, just awful. So can Jerron Johnson emerge in his 5th year? He was Cam Chancellor's backup in Seattle, so maybe that's one to keep an eye on as well. Jerron Johnson for the other safety spot there. He was Cam Chancellor's backup over in Seattle. So there's a few names throughout the list that I've gone through there. So yeah, that is it. Hopefully some names for you to keep an eye on. Again, agree, disagree, just hit me up. Zone Coverage FS. And John says lots of information, good prep, Mark. To be honest, this took me about 9 hours. 9 hours. I was going to do the entire AFC and the NFC, but it took me 9 hours to do the NFC, so I'm going to spend probably another 8-9 hours next week, and I'm going to do the same for the AFC. So hopefully, like I say, eradicating the quarterback out of the scenario, give a few names that you're all familiar with, and then a few sort of names that you might not have heard before. So I'm hoping that that's helpful to you guys. And basically, there's not a lot of news, and I wanted something interesting to sort of fill the time. I've seen a lot of people doing top 10 quarterbacks and deliberately putting Aaron Rodgers at 4 or 3 just to create controversy, and I want to try and shy away from that, if I'm honest, and do a good bit of in-depth research my end. And I'll be honest, I learned a lot about the teams going through it, so it was sort of educational for me along the way. So hopefully I've sort of passed on a bit of insight and knowledge and a few names, unfamiliar names, to maybe teams and players that you guys don't know. I know we all stick to our own team, and I'm quite ignorant of a couple of teams, in fairness. Like I said in the piece, Minnesota Vikings sort of secondary, never realised it was that good, didn't catch a great deal of Vikings games. So there's a couple of units as well that I want to keep an eye on going forward. So I think it just adds to the excitement and interest going forward. So hopefully that's come across while David seems to agree there. So well, I managed to fill an hour. I don't know how I managed to fill an hour, but I did. So again, I'm going to start to wrap things up my end. I just want to say before I go, in fairness, the numbers for the show over the course of the last few weeks, the downloads, the amount of people tuning in live, the just retweets, the people coming to the website, the amount of tweets that I'm getting, the interaction is a great testament to everyone that listens to the show. I said it last week, and I was amazed when I checked the figures again before starting the show this week. We've had more listens in the off month of July, which is the quiet month, than we did leading up towards the Super Bowl and even all the draft prep that we did. So I really, really can't thank you enough for that. So everyone in the chat room, everyone that listens live, everyone that listens via the form of a podcast, however you listen, whatever you do to spread the word, just know that I am grateful for the help there and very much appreciated. So, that's that done. I'm going to go. I've got a chicken in the oven. We're going to watch Southpaw tonight, so I'm looking forward to that. I heard rave reviews about that, so if you want some reviews on Southpaw, hit me up tomorrow. Hit me up on Twitter if you want, at Zone Coverage FS. I got personal Twitter, at TSmister, if you want to do that as well. I'm all down for that. Any sort of chit-chat you've got going forward. If you've got any feedback on that feature, agree, disagree, or you think the plays that I've sort of missed out, just let me know. The more the better. The more information I can get out to everyone, the better the show will be. Well, right, that is it. Again, once you see the links for everything, just keep doing what you guys do. Keep retweeting. Huge thanks to everyone in the chat room today. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'll be back next week. We'll do what we've done today, but we'll go through AFC-wise. So if you want to do a bit of homework, sort of jot down what you think, and we'll compare notes next week and see if we agree, disagree on that. If you want to know when your team is in camp and if you've missed the sort of list that I just spewed out quickly earlier, again, hit me up at Zone Coverage FS. I'll be happy to tweet that picture out. All that's left for me to say really is thanks again for tuning in. It's an absolute pleasure my end. Fully enjoyed the show. Sorry that I can't catch up with everyone in the chat room. I'll go back and do that afterwards. So till next week, hustle here and never quit.